TNKR Media. Welcome to today's Entrepreneur Inspiring Stories from Outstanding Business People by FL Montreal. I'm Orla Johannes in for Dan Delmar and joined with Mike Newton this afternoon. And we have a great show lined up for you. Mélissa Lambert will join us, the founder of Lambert Design. They make cruelty-free vegan leather bags. And we'll also chat with Juliana Papandrea, accounting and assurance supervisor at FL Fuller Landau, on the topic of startup and small business accounting and payroll. Now, Mike, I don't know about you, but I love fashion. And we know the global vegan fashion market is a billion-dollar industry. And I think more and more fashion brands are realizing the strength of vegan population as a potential market. And Mike, it's really great to see how Mélissa Lambert gets her hands dirty. She is involved at every single level of business.
Yeah, it's a very interesting discussion. I think when you look, first of all, at the whole discussion of the cruelty-free and the vegan side of fashion and how it has shifted away from being a fringe player to now really knocking on the door of the top designers to play in that market space. So I think that that's going to continue to be something that we're going to see change going forward. There will be some resistance, there's no doubt. I think as you start getting into the higher end brands, especially as you get into high fashion, as in handbags and a number of other things, I think that people are still expecting to pay for, high-end leathers and everything. But I think there's a change coming, and I think a lot of the top designers are already starting to feel the pressure. As far as being actively involved, today's entrepreneurs always, kind of been, we've had the opening segments on our thought leadership, and this week obviously no difference. I'm going to maybe shift away from Harvard Business Review, which has kind of been the staple for the last number of shows, and go to two articles this week. One of them, 4 reasons leaders shouldn't be afraid to do the dirty work, from Fast Company, which I think feeds nicely into what you were just saying. And the other is, it's basically a talk to leaders, do your own dirty work, and from Inc. magazine. And while they talk about the same dirty work, they're in two different spaces. So I'm going to start first with, the 4 reasons leaders shouldn't be afraid to do the dirty work. I love this article, and I love the message that it sends. Maybe it's not about the article, it's the message, but we've all watched Undercover Boss. We've all watched, shows about infiltrating, the warehouse and being involved in things. And that's not really what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about here is entrepreneurs getting into the trenches with his or her team. That ability. One of the quotes that I found fascinating is, as a veteran startup leader, I've yet to see a successful company with leadership that wasn't afraid to put on a hard hat, throw on some work boots, and get right into the weeds of the most unenjoyable tasks. And I think that this is a key element. A lot of people feel they're too important. A lot of people, especially when you come out of certain business school, you come out of certain environments, it's like, that's what I hire people to do. Well, I'll tell you, if you want to learn, a little bit of creativity and learn a little bit of respect and create motivation for the team, what this says, if you're going to get in there and do the work with people, is, as the boss, I'm no important than you are, just different. And in this task, we're doing the same thing. I think it provides respect, and it provides empathy for the team's tasks that they're doing. It raises the level that everybody's important within the organization. And yes, I think if you do it right, no doubt, there's always a mercenary side to things. The positive byproduct is that you can come out seeing how your team and how the procedures are performing. So the 4 points for the leaders basically is, it shows humility. Okay, and humility, in my opinion, builds trust and respect and cohesion, and on and on and on. I think that ability to be real is certainly, with the younger generation coming into the workforce today, this ability to be real is key in a market where we're having a hard time maintaining and enticing people to work. I think, again, being real and that environment plays into it. It takes the focus off of your title. When I walk into a room as managing partner, everybody looks at it as managing partner. If I walk in to say, okay, let's go do this together, let's go, whatever the task may be, I'm no longer wearing my, one hat. I'm wearing a team hat. And I think that that's vital at the end of the day, that it's no longer hierarchical when it comes to those things. I think it allows you to identify roadblocks and pain points. If you're sitting there doing things and you see the process and you see the procedures, you have a tendency to go, hey, wait a second, maybe this isn't working right. That complaint that came across my desk last week, maybe there's some validity to that complaint. And I think the last one is helps you sweat. And you look at that and you say, well, sweat equity is part of every business, and you can't build a successful business without sweat equity. But often for leaders and the CEOs, this actually means sweating. It actually means, rolling up your sleeves and doing the work. And that's good for the companies in any industry, from tech to finance to food. You simply have to use elbow grease. I grew up on a farm. You were literally in it. Okay. But that was part of it. And, and the elbow grease and learning to work, it just puts the team at ease on a lot of things. And I think that goes a long way.
But don't you find as well, Mike, it opens up better lines of communication with every level in the company because people feel more comfortable?
100%. To walk in and say, you do this because I'm more important than you are. And whether that's true or not is irrelevant. Okay, it doesn't need to be reinforced. It doesn't need to be thrown into your face in these things. So the communications are open. If I walk in and say, hey, next time you need to do something, hey, wait a sec, I'll go move this box, or I'll go do, doesn't mean you're going to do it on a regular basis. And sometimes you're in a suit and it's not the most practical. And you know what? Sometimes that's the best time to do it, because it proves a point. So the reality of being real and being true and being part of things with your team, I can guarantee you, when you go to bat, they're right there with you. And I think that builds something that people who have never, anybody who's sat, in a glass tower is always going to have missed something in terms of a relationship with their team. The other article, which is doing your own dirty work, but in a very different manner, from Inc. magazine, is, sometimes the bosses and the owners have to do the difficult tasks. You can't always send somebody else to do it. This article focuses on an individual who was a cashier and a waitress and who loved what she was doing, but there was this notoriously difficult client. And instead of addressing it by the owner, he let the woman that was working, the cashier, constantly deal with her to the point where it made her cry. And there's a point where you have, as a business owner, you have to look at what's involved, and you have to say, the old adage that the client is always right. Well, I will agree to that to a point, but the client is always right so long as they're being respectful. Yeah. And they're not treating my team like garbage. Okay. And there's a very fine line. And yes, nobody wants to lose business, but I think keeping your team comfortable and understanding is huge. Over the years, I have advised clients that, they to leave the firm. Why? Because I watched them disrespect repeatedly people within the organizations. I've pulled teams out from clients who were disrespecting the team on site. That goes a long way in building the trust that your team knows you've got their back. And when you need them to have your back, they're going to be there. And if you're not going to do that, but only an owner can make that decision. You can't ask if that's it. That person disrespected me, I'm pulling out. The reality is it's owner's business. It's the owner's decision. And if the owner chooses the client over the team member, that's their choice, and they live with the repercussions. I have no problem forcing. I don't think people need to be forced to make a decision, but our society is really poor in being accountable for their own decisions. And basically, at the end of the day, to me, a moment of disrespectful, trash me all you want. I have had clients, over the years that have told me what they felt. No problem. I'm a big boy. I'm going to push back if I feel it's necessary. My team is not supposed to do that. And I think anybody from an entrepreneurial standpoint, your leader needs to ensure that they are going to protect their team, because you are always going to need somebody at that point to move forward. And, and you look at it from an entrepreneurial standpoint, and you look at it from, our guest today having, she started a small business and moving forward. Anybody that started a business, there's always going to be this trade-off between saying this is intolerable behavior from people from the outside vis-a-vis my team. And everybody needs to have a line, and everybody needs to be able to address it. And again, I only think that the leaders and the owners can make those calls, because it is their decision at the end of the day. If they choose to not do something, then you know what? Let them live with the repercussions.
100%. And we're going to be chatting to an amazing entrepreneur. Joining us now is Mélissa Lambert, founder of Lambert Design. They make cruelty-free vegan leather bags. Welcome to the show, Mélissa.
Thank you very much.
So first off, tell us what you do at Lambert Design.
Well, I do a lot of things because I'm the I'm the president. So it's gonna be like about 5 years that I funded the company, and I do a lot of different things. I'm creating different kind of bags and accessories. We're looking for all the trend on the market. I'm doing all the marketing strategy, and right now our main goal is to develop the rest of Canada because we are really well known in Quebec, but we are developing in Toronto and Vancouver market. So there's a lot of things to do every day. It's very, each day is very different from the other one.
So why don't we take a little step back in history here and trying to figure from where you came. I got to say, doing a little bit of research, I'm trying to find the link between the fact that you started working at Videotron and how that helped you move forward into what you're doing today. So you might bridge that gap for me, please.
Yes, I have a very strong background in marketing. So I was a brand manager at Videotron for about like 7 years. And I had the idea of creating my own brand. And this is, I was looking for what can I create, something in the market, something new. And it all started when I was pregnant with my second child. And I was looking for a bag that was both chic and practical. And I didn't find anything on the market that was really nice. And for a diaper bag as well, there was nothing really fancy at the time. So I had this idea of creating bags that women would like to wear, even if they're a mom and didn't need to put a lot of things in the bag. It could be fashion. So I started created some 3 different models with a designer from Montreal. And this is where it all started because when I was in a maternity leave, I had this goal. For 6 months, I want to launch my website at first. This is what I did for you about like 5 years ago. And when I started this, it was selling really well. I decided to open a pop-up shop downtown Montreal just before Christmas. It was the perfect timing. We had an amazing Christmas sale. And after this is when I decided to quit my job at Videotron and to be like fully in my business. And we also went at Dragon's Den here in Quebec, and it's a really nice TV show, and it gives us a lot of visibility. And Lambert was really well known really fast after less than a year. And now after it's going to be we're going to celebrate our 5th anniversary in September. And we have about 200 point of sales all around Canada. We are selling online, and we also have a flagship on Plateau Mont-Royal. So it's the only flagship for Lambert that we have all the bags, all the models and different colors. So yeah, it's a lot of work. It's been a 5 years really, really busy.
Well, I truly admire you following your dream. That's exactly what I did. Coming back to your vegan handbags, quality is very important these days. People are looking for that. How difficult is it to mimic the quality of real leather when, making and selling your products? Because people ultimately are, thinking about that when they go shopping for a vegan product. They don't want the leather, but they want it to look like the leather.
Exactly. And this is what we are looking for, all the new material. There's different quality in vegan leather. So we are always looking for the best quality, something that looks really, really similar. There are some people customers, they think it's leather and we're not. No, it's not real leather. It's vegan leather. So it's important because it's not the same care. You just have to wash it with water. You don't have to put any products on real leather. So there's a lot of advantages with vegan leather. And it's really important. Quality is the first thing that we're looking for.
What exactly is, though, vegan leather? What is the fabric you're working with?
We are working with PU, so it's polyurethane. It's less massive for the environment than PVC. We are also looking for more for more sustainable materials, we are launching this spring 100% recycled nylon. So it's really sustainable and really easy to care. So yeah, we're looking for more sustainable material. It's really important to have all those aspects and keep the same quality and keep an accessible price at the same time.
It's a very interesting conversation when you get into the sustainability component of this, because it's really a philosophical approach to life and the way that you do things. And when I look at being in fashion and I look at being sustainable, they're not always necessarily fully linked. So you started off, I guess, in the fashion industry. You're moving into the sustainable component at this point. Would you consider yourself still a fashion driven, motivated person trying to find the right alternative in the sustainability market, or have you now kind of merged your two philosophies or your two values into one?
Yeah, we're trying to merge, the philosophy, because it's really a challenge, I think, for every company in fashion industry to look all the sustainable new material, but it's really expensive. So the consumer needs to be ready to pay this price. If you do it and there's nobody is buying it, you're gonna waste it. So there's no point. So it's really to find the sweet spot, like the right compromise, the right product at the right price and the right material. So it's a really, really tough challenge. And I think that even if we're a new company, it's been only 5 years, we're a challenger, and we're looking for like digital vegan leather. There's new material. There's one, it's called VGI, it's from Italy. And we're looking to launch a collection in this material this year. So I think we need to be always pushing yourself and innovate.
I hate to use the term disruptor, when it comes to sustainability, but I think the fashion industry, it has certainly become a disruptor in the way, you're doing business and how you want to do business. And I think that the price points are hugely important. I mean, it's nice to say that, you want to be sustainable, but if you can't make a business out of it, and at what point does that, to find that equal balance? How do you determine your pricing when it comes to dealing with this? And how do you find, is to go back to Orla's question before, the whole discussion of real leather comparable in vegan leather, but a price point that may be very different. How do you sell that? Is this based on targeting a certain market? Is this what's going on in the world? How do you go about doing that?
For the VGA collection, as an example, we're gonna try to have a different branding, and we're gonna target a different kind of customer. It's more niche, but I think there's consumers that are really with their value, they're ready to pay more. So we're gonna do a really small collection, and it's a test that we're gonna do and see if there's more consumers open to pay more. We're gonna offer more product in that range, price range. Sorry, but I think it's like for nylon, the collection that we're launching, it's really good price range. We're really able to be aggressive with that kind of collection. But it's a challenge. It's definitely a challenge.
It's very interesting when we're talking about price, because I have a pair of leather pants that I bought years ago, because obviously they're durable, they last a long time. That was, don't tell my husband this, but they were $1,500. And and I have a pair of vegan leather pants that were $100. And out of the two, the vegan leather is so comfortable. It seems like there's no option for me. One, I appreciate the sustainability, and I appreciate that we're not using animals. But why do you think there is such a great gap right now? Do you think the leather is going to come down to be able to compete with the vegan? Okay.
For sure. I think that leather is going to be more luxury. If the brand, the really big brand, the luxury one, they're going to keep the leather, but I think that it's going to be less popular, and definitely there's a lot of brands now that are doing vegan leather, more sustainable, and people are more aware, because just before there was a bad reputation with the pure leather, vegan leather.
Yes.
Like more less
Plastic.
quality.
Yes.
Plastic. So
I mean,
now
Mélissa, I have to say to you, when all this, the new plastic vegan came out, I was wearing a pair of pants, and it was like I was my legs were in a sauna. I was like, I can't do this.
Yeah,
it's changed. The quality, you wouldn't even know that you were wearing, not leather pants. It's a fantastic how it's advanced.
Exactly. And I think that more brands are going to use vegan leather, more quality, more different kind of texture we're going to kind of offer. Crocro, micro suede, you have a lot of different, the smooth leather, the pebble leather, you have a lot of options. Sapiano, yes. So all those vegan options. So I think this is really interesting, and I encourage a lot of brands to follow the trend.
So let's talk about how you market your product, Mélissa.
Sure. Well, we definitely use the social media to promote our brand with influencer. We partner with them. We really want them to like the product, so we let them choose their favorite one. And after they really wear it, and they talk about how practical they are. And we have a strong strategy when we do a launch. We like to tease and excite the consumers on our website, but on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. And yes. when we are arriving to the day of the launch, it's amazing how the push that we have. So they're really buying, like the day of launch are really, really busy for Lambert.
So do you focus most of your marketing through social media?
For sure. It's really, Instagram is really, really a good tool. You need to create a lot of different content. It's changing between the years. At the beginning, it was really easy to do some sales through Instagram. Now you need to create more content. And TikTok is definitely the new way to try to be there and create different kind of content. And there's a different type of consumer also, maybe a younger consumer, but we're definitely using social media to promote our brand.
There's a huge untapped market, from vegan products. I mean, the reality is, whether that's a generational difference, whether that's a philosophical difference, whether it's somebody that woke up at 54 years old and decided, well, maybe I should be looking at something other than leather, even though that's always been to the end of it. How do you market to that? How do you get those people interested in your product and the concept of those products? I mean, it's a philosophical shift for people. The people that have bought leather shoes and leather jackets and everything for years, all of a sudden you're going to get them away from that into a vegan, potentially sustainable environment. How are you going to market to those people?
I think it's pretty easy, because people, when they saw the quality of the products and they saw like how many influencers they use it, they like it, and the review on the website. So I think that with the quality, it's really difficult to see the difference between a real leather bag and a vegan leather bag. And I think that it's pretty easy to have. And also, like you mentioned, the older generation that are used to use real leather, and with the price point that is really accessible, I think they want to try. They're going to try one. Sometimes they just buy an accessory, and after we can sell a bag and do upsells. And we have like the Elite Squad on Facebook, a private group. It's like the biggest fan that we have for Lambert, and they have like a few, sometimes it's a whole collection, or they have a model but in like all the colors since the like 5 years. So it's really surprising.
It's so interesting, Mike, the point you make, because when I was a kid, I remember they came out with jelly bean shoes. I don't know if you know what they were. They were plastic shoes, and they were so trendy, and I really wanted a pair, and my mom would not allow me to have a pair. No, you're going to wear leather shoes. You're not wearing plastic. Your feet is going to sweat. Like, you're not wearing them. You will only wear leather shoes. And it's so interesting how over time, the mindset has completely shifted. When my 7-year-old daughter asks me, can I buy a pair of Mélissa shoes, which are plastic shoes? I'm like, yes, let's go buy Melissa's. It's so fascinating how the whole thinking has just switched around.
Yeah, I find it fascinating in the sense that it's a philosophical shift. I'm still not sure where you go, and maybe this is a question, Melissa, for you, is, the high end bag manufacturers, okay, the real artistes in the fashion industry, their move away from the high quality leathers and the products, when you're talking Prada bags and you're talking, along that area, how much have they moved into the sustainable side of things, and are they capable of selling at a very high level, or is this going to be a lower niche market on a longer term basis?
It's a pretty good question. I cannot say and I cannot talk for them, but yeah, I think that even the bigger brands, they are trying to do collab. Like the new trend is to do collab between two different brands. So you can see Gucci doing a collab with North Face. So I think that there is this new trend that you need to collab with other brands. And this is maybe a way for them to be more sustainable or more accessible. But I think that for Lambert, we are in the right spot. And this is why we're following the trend. And there's definitely a place for us in the rest of Canada where we, with Frank and Old Simon. So the Frank and Old is really, their philosophy is similar to us. It's really sustainable products. So this is why we want to partner with we don't just want to sell our bags in any kind of store. We really want to try to develop a solid relationship and collab with companies that have similar values from us. So yeah, we're going to continue in that way.
It's interesting talking about very high-end brands, because Hermes, the very, very high-end luxury handbag brand, are coming under intense criticism after Peter went in and secretly filmed in their alligator farms. And when I read this, it made me cry. I was horrified. And I think they have to be aware that there has to be empathy and compassion nowadays when you're producing fashion accessories, because people want to hear that. That makes a big impact on your mindset of which bag you're going to buy.
For sure. And now with COVID, it's really difficult because it's been 2 years that we didn't visit our factory. And for me, it's really important that I go there, I visit, I see the production line, how is it going? So yeah, it's really, really important to be there and see where are your products, what are the condition of the human that are producing your bags. So this is really, really the most important thing for me.
Yeah, I think the pressure on that we're going to see is the buyers and the marketplace and the sustainability are going to get to a point like they have in many industries in terms of coming to a head in fashion and what that's going to look like. So I guess that's interesting. Do you want to, Melissa, talk at all about your price points? Where you sit in the market space? Is there anything from a product perspective that you're developing now that's coming out that you want to go, hey, this is here's a soft launch for you if there's something new that you want to talk about?
For sure. So today it's a day launch. So after the interview, I'm going to the warehouse and beload the container and doing a Facebook Live to launch a new collection. But we're launching our biggest collection for spring in April. We're really excited with a lot of new texture. And with the first collection in 100% nylon recycle, as I mentioned before. And yes, the price range is between 100 and 200. So it's really, really accessible for a bag that you will use like every day, that is sustainable. And we are looking for launching in October the new collection in Vegea. So it's a new material made in Italy and really sustainable. And the price point will be like around 100 more. So 100, so between 200 and $300. So it's more high end, but I think it's still accessible for something really resistant.
Well, I guess I am a guy, but I do know that the price of handbags of $200 to $300 for a handbag is nothing. So
Yeah.
you're certainly not in an expensive space. So that much I know. I have a good friend who is in the handbag industry and a client for years. So yeah, I will not admit that I know as much as I do about the handbag industry, but it is a fascinating one. Are you guys doing any of the research yourselves in terms of mixing content, different materials? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, we have a team of research that are looking for all the new materials on the market, and we tested a lot of new materials by ourselves. And yes, we're doing testing for the resistance. We're doing a lot of and mixing things, and yeah, we want to become more trendy. And we are working every day to launch, like to innovate, because if you want to continue to perform in the market and stay really strong in the growth, and you need to innovate.
Mélissa, thank you so much for joining us. Super excited to see the new collection, and congratulations.
Thank you. It was a pleasure. Thank you for your time.
And we'll be back later in the show with Melissa's one piece of advice. And joining us now to chat about startup and small business accounting payroll is Juliana Papandrea, Accounting and Assurance Supervisor at FL Fuller Landau. And of course, we're also joined by the Mike Newton.
Thanks, Orla. I will very happily take this segment and run with Juliana on it. So I think Juliana, if you look at our guest today, I mean, obviously retail stores, smaller businesses, startups. I know that that's something that you spend a lot of time on. What are some of your key questions and some of the key issues when you start up with a new client who's just trying to get things off the ground?
Hi, Mike. So I like to start by asking the client about their business so I can become familiar with it, get a more in-depth understanding. And one of the most important questions is what type of industry they're in. Is it product or service based? Are they wholesale, retail? Are they brick and mortar setup, digital storefront, or a combination of both? I also like to ask them to walk me through their process from beginning to end so I can visualize the operational side of it. This gives me a better understanding of what services they may need from us. And the more the client is willing to share about the business, the easier it is for us to assess their needs. The next step is really determining what type of software would best suit their needs. And the key question is who will be taking care of the books? Should they take care of the books in-house themselves or hire someone? It's really important to have someone with accounting knowledge. It saves time and money. And having an inexperienced bookkeeper can create inefficiencies and cost the company a lot of money when it comes time for year end. Another key question is how will they stay organized? Most small businesses just don't have the necessary resources or manpower to handle so many administrative tasks. And the last thing you want is to get lost in paperwork, losing or misplacing receipts. And today, many softwares allow you to email your expense invoices directly into the software where it gets stored. No need to hang on to all those receipts. Everything gets streamlined in one place. And there's no need for printing statements and credit card, bank statements, and whatnot. So those are pretty much the questions I like to ask.
So one of the complaints, obviously, for a lot of new businesses, really is shall we call it the huge amount of administration work that gets associated with starting up. And one of the areas that constantly poses a problem for people is GST/QST, or the sales taxes associated with what they're doing. There's so many different rules, so many different conditions, and how do you address that? How do you make sure that your clients have a hold on their sales tax issues as entrepreneurs?
So it's important for entrepreneurs to be aware of the types of supply categories and which one they fall under and how this will affect their sales tax reports. So there are three different categories of what we call supplies. The first category is taxable supplies, and this allows a business to both collect sales tax and claim the input tax credits on their purchases. And a perfect example of this would be the sale of handbags, such as our guest Mélissa Lambert's company. The second category is called zero-rated supplies. So in this category, it doesn't allow a business to collect sales tax, but it does allow a business to to claim the input tax credits that they've made on purchases in order to produce their goods. The last category is exempt supplies. This category doesn't allow for any sales tax collection, nor does it allow for the company to claim any input tax credits. And an example of this would be, for example, childcare services. As a general rule, like once you exceed $30,000 of sales in a given quarter, this is when you should be registering for GST QST. You can also register if you're under the 30,000 threshold, but there are some exceptions for certain industries because, for example, taxi drivers are obliged to register no matter what the amount of sales are. So it depends the industry.
So I guess maybe just a very quick last point is, payroll and deductions at source, and the infamous, do I employ people or do I keep them as contract workers? If you had one thing to say with dealing with payroll, what would be that kind of decision-making process?
Well, it's important to know the difference between an employee and an independent contract worker or self-employed worker. And the CRA has a huge list of questions to determine the difference. So it makes total sense if you think about it. Like you have to ask yourself, who provides the tools and equipment? Who bears the financial risk? What level of control does the worker have over the employee? And if you do decide to go with hiring employees and putting them on your payroll, you have to consider all the deduction at source that goes with that.
Juliana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
That's Juliana Papandrea, Accounting and Assurance Supervisor at FL Fuller Landau. We're now going to chat with Mélissa Lambert, founder of Lambert Design, with her one piece of advice. Mélissa?
Yeah, my piece of advice is really to keep your vision. It's really important to remind you why you found the company, what is your purpose, what is your values, because it's so easy to go in so different kind of ways. So with time, so really to keep the same vision as the beginning.
Thank you, Mélissa, for joining us today. That's Mélissa Lambert, founder of Lambert Design. You can follow them on Instagram and Facebook at Lambert Bags. Mike, next week, Dan Delmar is back and you'll be chatting with Joe Roulier, VP at Real Estate Colliers International. And also a reminder that you can subscribe to Today's Entrepreneur as a podcast on iHeartRadio, iTunes, or your favorite platform. And you can also log on to the website, todaysentrepreneur.org, for hundreds of local entrepreneur profiles. I'm Orla Johannes. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Orla. Have a great week.
This has been a production of TNKR Media. Good talk.